Okay, it's 9:30. Do we have a quorum? Are we okay to go ahead?
It looks like we do have a quorum, yes.
Okay. Then I will call to order the Riverside County Transportation Commission meeting of Wednesday, May 12th, 2021. And I will provide the remarks needed for our virtual and remote meeting. So thank you for participating in our remote meeting. And we'll do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation and ask for public comment throughout the agenda. Before we begin, I want to review some guidelines and general instructions for the meeting. Please silence your other communication devices, such as your cell or desk phone. And this will help us with any feedback issues, and it'll avoid interruption during the meeting. So Zoom instructions, if you'd like to make a public comment and you're on Zoom, please click on the raise hand button. We will be watching for those. And if you're using Zoom on your smartphone, tap your screen, look for the more option, and then the raise hand button on the screen. And for those calling in using the phone line only, you can dial *9 on your keyboard to signal that you would like to comment. So may we have roll call, please?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. District 1,
District 1 here.
District 2, here. District 3,
Here.
District 4,
Here.
District 5,
Here.
Banning,
Here.
you, Beaumont,
Here.
Blythe,
Here.
Calamasa,
Here.
Canyon Lake, Cathedral City,
Here.
Coachella, Corona,
Present.
Desert Hot Springs,
Present.
Eastvale,
Present.
Emmett,
Here.
Indian Wells,
Indian Wells here.
Indio,
Present.
Harupa Valley,
I'm here.
La Quinta,
Here.
Lake Elsinore,
Here.
Menifee,
Menifee is here.
Moreno Valley,
Here.
Marietta,
Here.
thank you. Norco,
Here.
Palm Desert,
Here.
Palm Springs,
Present.
Paris,
Here.
Rancho Mirage,
Here.
San Jacinto,
Here.
Temecula, Wildemar,
Here.
Caltrans District 8.
Here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum.
And Lisa, I'm here. You miss me.
I'm sorry, Riverside.
Hey, Lisa.
Hi, good morning.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you. I
you.
have noted you.
No problem.
Okay, we'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Supervisor Perez, would you please lead us today?
Sure. Will everyone please rise and please join me in saluting our nation's flag. Pledge allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America. That's one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to public comments. Are there any public comments for items not on the agenda?
I believe Arnold San Miguel has his hand raised.
Yeah, okay, I see that. Thank you, Mr. San Miguel.
Good
Please.
morning, Chairman Harnick and good members of the commission. Just wanted to quickly bring to your attention one item. We are having our 32nd annual demographic workshop. It's going to be a virtual event. Part 1 will be June 8th from 1:30 p.m. till 4:45 p.m. SCAG and the University of Southern California Sol Price School of Public Policy. We're pleased to invite you to our 32nd annual demographic workshop. It'll be Tuesday, June 8th and Tuesday, June 15th. This year's program is the Post-Pandemic City. And typically we do charge for this, but this year it is free to all individuals that register, and you can do so at the SCAG website, and just encourage you to attend. And I've made this promise, and I'll do it again. If you attend it and you are not satisfied, I will come and take a day vacation and work for you. So thank you very much.
Wow, that's a deal. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment on something that is not on the agenda? Okay, seeing no one, I see no one. And Lisa, do you have
I am
anything?
not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move to, are there any additions or revisions?
There are no additions or revisions from staff.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move to item number 6, the resolution of necessity. And we'll need to, this is a public hearing. We will open the public hearing, and then we'll go right to legal counsel to give us an explanation of the nature and scope of this hearing.
Yes, the purpose of this item today is to conduct a hearing regarding the adoption of a resolution of necessity. As part of the resolution of necessity, the commission will be asked to make the following findings: that the public interest and necessity require the proposed project, that the project is planned or located in a manner that is most compatible with the greatest public good and least private injury, that the real property to be acquired is necessary for the project, and that the offer of justification of just compensation has been made to the property owner. A 2/3 vote is required. A 2/3 vote of the total commission is required to adopt the resolution, and only the necessity of acquiring the property, not the price of the property, is under consideration at today's public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I ask the clerk of the board confirmation that we have proof of mailing on the notice of hearing.
I do have proof of mailing of the notice of hearing, yes.
Okay, and then to specify all written objection, protests, and requests to be heard from owners and their representatives. So do we have any letters or any other kind of correspondence?
I did not receive any written objections, protests, or requests to be heard from owners and their representatives written. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak, an owner or the owner representative that's present today? Please raise your hand or speak. I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll have Hector Casillas will provide a report on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Commissioners. My name is Hector Casillas, and I am RCTC's right-of-way manager. I'll be making today's presentation. So today, staff is requesting the Commission to adopt this resolution of necessity for the Placentia Avenue widening project in the city of Paris. In October of 2018, the Commission entered into an agreement to acquire the necessary right-of-way for the city's project. And this was done because in the interest of good transportation planning and also the Commission's need to acquire the same right-of-way for the Mid-County Parkway project. Today's resolution is on the city's behalf, and there are 4 findings the Commission must believe are satisfied before adopting the resolution of necessity. Next slide, please.
Can I, excuse me one moment. Somebody is not on mute, and this is absolutely so important that we listen to this specific item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so before we get to the 4 findings, I would like to review some guidance that the Commission has given to staff in the past. As with all cases in which the Commission exercises the power of eminent domain, the property interests under consideration today are required for a public purpose. In this case, a street widening project, and not for a private purpose. The offers of just compensation that have been made were for the full appraised value of those interests, which are based on highest and best use of the property. The commission uses eminent domain only as a last resort, having attempted in good faith to negotiate settlements with each of the owners of these interests. And lastly, staff will continue to attempt to negotiate any settlements right up to and including during trial, if it should come to that. As you are aware, staff has extensive experience in acquiring property and has fully implemented this guidance set by the commission with its eminent domain actions for many years. This guidance was utilized on the State Route 91 corridor improvement project where over 100 resolution of necessities were adopted. Next slide, please. Okay. As Steve mentioned, the adoption of the resolution of necessity requires that the commission make 4 findings. Those findings are: 1, for the public interest and necessity require the proposed project, and 2, the project is planned or located in a manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. And 3, the real property to be acquired is necessary for the project. And 4, for the offer of just compensation has been made to the property owner. Next slide, please. Okay. This is an aerial view of the parcel we need to acquire for the Placentia Avenue widening. This is a partial acquisition consisting of 12,843 square feet, or about 1/3 of an acre. This exhibit depicts the area in red, and the interest primarily runs along Placentia Avenue. I would like to begin with some basic information about the project. So the project will widen Placentia Avenue from 2 lanes to 4 lanes between the intersection of Indian Avenue and Paris Boulevard, with right turn lanes at the intersections. And then secondly, the project will provide improvements such as sidewalk, curb and gutter, and storm drain improvements. 3, the project will provide better access to the new I-215 Placentia Avenue interchange, which the commission is constructing today. The property interest from the property is necessary to allow the city of Paris to widen Placentia Avenue. Next slide, please. Okay. The parcel we are requesting a resolution of necessity for is owned by Core Slab Structures LA Inc. and is located on the southeast corner of Placentia Avenue and Barrett Avenue in the city of Paris. Core Slab Structures LA Inc. owns a property on both the north and the south side of Placentia Avenue. So the total larger parcel is a combined 32 acres in size. The portion on the north side of Placentia Avenue is 22 acres and is improved, and the area that area is used to create precast beams and platforms for highway projects and other construction projects. The portion on the south side of Placentia is 10 acres in size and is unimproved. This area is used to store equipment and products. The property interest required for the project consists of a partial acquisition in fee, and it's on the south side of Placentia Avenue, the unimproved portion. Next slide, please. Okay, an offer of just compensation has been made, and it was originally presented in February 10th of 2020, and it was followed up with an updated offer on January 11th of 2021. I will summarize the negotiations with the property owner. So negotiations have been ongoing since early 2020 when the original offer was presented. Over the last year and a half, staff has been in communications with the property owner and taking into consideration their input on the restrictions a proposed acquisition may have on their property. Earlier this year, staff updated its appraisal report and updated the amount of just compensation to account for some of that input. In the past few months, staff and its legal counsel has been working with the property owner's representative to settle the acquisition. However, while we expect those negotiations to continue, staff is recommending moving forward and adopting a resolution of necessity to meet the current project schedule. The project schedule necessitates possession of the property by October of 2021. And prior to COVID-19, it took approximately 5 months from the time a resolution of necessity was adopted to the time a court grants legal possession of the property. Today, it may take longer. Next slide, please. Okay. This slide shows the number of contacts we have made with the owner. You can see that significant effort was made to meet with them. There have been 2 in-person meetings, one of those during COVID-19, 2 video conference calls also during COVID-19, 5 mailings, 25 telephone calls, and 34 emails for a total of 68 contacts in an attempt to settle. The owner's representatives have not expressed opposition to the project or the acquisition, and therefore we believe in this case it is essentially a compensation issue. And as always, we will continue to negotiate with the property owner to attempt to come to an amicable settlement. Next slide, please. So in accordance with our practice, staff has followed the standard process for a Caltrans State Highway project when a parcel requires a resolution of necessity, which includes holding a district condemnation evaluation meeting and condemnation panel review meeting, which is formerly called a first and second level review. The meeting was held with commission staff and legal counsel, city staff, Overland Pacific and Cutler staff, which is our right-of-way consultant on the MCP project, and the property owners' representatives on May 5th of 2021. The purpose of this meeting is to allow for a formal opportunity to review the design of the project, the required acquisition, and to request design changes. The issues that were raised at this meeting by the property owner representatives were related to the driveway access points, which are being finalized in cooperation between the city and the property owner. Staff will continue to work with the property owner in efforts to settle, but discussions have not been about the design of the project. Next slide, please. Okay, so staff recommends the commission adopt resolution 21-006 on the following findings. 1, the public interest and necessity require the proposed project. 2, the project is planned or located in a manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. 3, is the real property to be acquired is necessary for the project. And 4, that the offer of just compensation has been made to the property owner. Next slide, please. So before I conclude the presentation, I'd like to mention that the city staff is here. The project manager, Cassandra Sanchez, is here to answer any design questions. And that concludes my presentation. So I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Casillas? And I'm going to ask the clerk this question. Would it be more appropriate to hear from the owners and their representatives before we take questions from the commissioners?
I did see a couple of people join during the presentation, so I'll do one more call. Is there are the owners or the owner representatives here and wish to speak? If so, please raise your hand or speak. I am not seeing anybody.
Okay, well, we have a number of commissioners with their hand up. So let's start with Commissioner Condor, please.
Thank you, Chair. Hector, just one quick question. I mean, in reading the report, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. This is in no way going to affect this business's opportunities to do business or affect their product output, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Now I just want to make that clear so it can be in the public. This is not going to affect their business in any way. And you just got to finalize an entrance, but 12,000 square feet, it's needed for the public good. All right. Thank you.
Yes. So Chair Harnack, I think you were on mute when you were speaking.
Oh, thank you. I was. Thank you so much. Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you, Chair. I just have one clarification. Confirm that the area to be is on the south side or the property on the roadway. It is the unimproved section. Is that what I heard, Hector?
Yes, that is correct. Unimproved area of their property.
Okay, and I concur with Commissioner Condor on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next in the queue is Commissioner Vinton, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I apologize. I did not realize I was unmuted earlier. Regarding the additional parcels, it looks looking along the corridor, it looks like there's going to be a lot of takes. Specifically, the one I'm concerned about is the one adjacent to the east of this. Looks like they have a building in the way. What is the status of those negotiations and how that's going to work?
I'm not, can I ask that this is not germane to this specific issue, is it? So I think we need to stick to just, I think I'm correct on this, and I would look to greater minds than mine to confirm that.
If Steve would confirm that, my concern is we get this one parcel and then can't finish the rest of it. So it is germane to this in my view, but if Mr. Braun could confirm.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I didn't quite get it.
Sure. I was asking about other parcels. It looks like we may have similar issues all up and down the corridor, specifically the one to the east with a building. It looks like if we continue the right of way across, that might be really costly to affect that. So Madam Chair said that it's not germane to this specific one. My question.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. The only parcel under consideration today is the parcel that is listed in the resolution of necessity. So if there are additional parcels that are needed that cannot be acquired through negotiation, then we will bring those forward at that point. Does that answer your question?
Well, I understand that. My question more is, can I ask the question? Because if we are not able to take those other properties or not, by negotiation or otherwise, then we take this piece from this owner and we do not have a project. So I'm a little concerned about taking this if we don't have a project.
Yeah. Well, we do have a project now, and we are permitted to take this property based on our good faith belief that there is a project. So there's no legal concern with proceeding with the project. If in fact we cannot come to terms with another property owner, then it will be the commission to decide whether or not there's a resolution of necessity. But on projects of these sorts, it's often done on a piecemeal basis. So it's not unusual to have one property that is condemned and then sequentially another property later condemned. But we do have a project, and we're purchasing property in good faith and proceeding along with the resolution of necessity in good faith, that we will be able to acquire all of the necessary parcels. I do not know the status of the particular property that's under consideration, but if it's something that's needed for the project, I'm certain that there are negotiations underway.
Thank you.
I guess the bottom line is I can't ask the question.
Well,
you want to know whether or not we're actually negotiating with the other property owners?
Well, I would assume that we are. I guess would be if they are somewhat fruitful at this point, and granted, it's not a guarantee, but if staff thinks yes, we can move forward with some of the other negotiations, and it is possible.
Okay.
Can I just make it, we are in negotiations currently.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'll
I'll stand down.
Okay, and I did see Mark Lancaster's hand up. Was that to offer the same information that we got from our executive director?
I just want to point out, because I was involved with the project, that this is the last parcel that's needed for the Placentia Avenue widening project. The parcel at the corner of Paris and Placentia has already been acquired, and we have a plan to move that current tenant of that property to a new facility. So this will complete, this particular parcel under consideration today will complete all the right-of-way necessary for the Placentia Avenue widening project. I hope
Thank you,
that
Mark.
answers your question, sir.
That
Okay.
absolutely does. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. Commissioner Bergson?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. My question is simply, I hate to do eminent domain. It's always the last resort. I can tell that RCTC staff has reached out numerous times, but my question is, because this seems to be a compensation issue, do we know what the delta is, what they're asking versus what we're paying? What is the amount that's different? And is that something that could be continued to be negotiated, or are we throwing our hands up because there's just no way, or it's too far apart from what our offer is and what their request is?
I want to remind you that this agenda item is not regarding the compensation, and they have said right into the end, even if they have to go to court, they will continue negotiating and trying to find a place where everyone agrees.
No, I understood that it's not that, but I mean, if we were talking about a few dollars, it's one thing. If we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, then obviously there may not be much alternative for us to make that decision.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Molina.
Yes, my only question had to do with an owner issue of driveway access. And I was just curious if that had been resolved, because it is a storage side of their property.
Yes, we've informed them where the driveway locations can go, and city staff has confirmed that. Now the owner is just going back to do their own due diligence to make sure that that will work for their operations.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
Great, thank you. And Commissioner Vargas.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks staff for all their due diligence behind this project. This is a great project. Obviously, it's going to impact our Mid-County Parkway. And as Mark indicated, this is the last piece. And the benefit to everybody is that the RCTC is taking 4 lanes up to Indian, and the city's going to continue from Indian all the way to Paris. So it'll be a nice 4-way lanes going back and forth to the interchange. And this, I appreciate everybody's efforts and all the questions being asked, but this is the final piece. And the key thing is that the reason for moving forward is when we start, we're trying to match the timeline so that when we start the 4 lanes coming out, it'll end at the same time as the project is completed. This way, everything's all done at one time. So with that, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we move to approve staff's recommendation.
Okay, thank you for the motion, and thank you for the information. We have a little bit more to go on. We want to make sure, did any owners or their representatives call in or wish to speak? No?
Not seeing anybody.
Okay, and there's no one else. I see no other hands in the queue. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this issue? Anyone at all? Okay. Then we will close the public hearing. And we have a motion from Commissioner Vargas. And I'm sorry, who was the second from? Okay, I hear Ben Benoit for the second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Thank you. District 1?
District 1, yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Aye.
District 5?
Yes.
Banning?
Yes.
Beaumont?
Yes.
Blythe?
Yes.
Calamasa?
Yes.
Canyon Lake? Cathedral City?
Yes.
Coachella?
Yes.
Corona?
Aye.
Desert Hot Springs?
Aye.
Eastvale?
Aye.
Hemet?
Yes.
Indian Wells?
Yes.
Indio?
Aye.
Arupa Valley?
Yes.
La Quinta?
Yes.
Lake Elsinore?
Aye.
Menifee?
Yes.
Moreno Valley,
Yes.
Marietta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Palm Desert,
Yes.
Palm Springs,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Rancho Mirage,
Yes.
Riverside,
Yes.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula, Wildemar.
Yes.
Thank you. That item passes.
Thank you, everyone, for the questions, comments, and information. It's eminent domain always deserves ample consideration. So we'll move to item number 7, which is also a public hearing. And this is the proposed budget for fiscal year 2021 and 22. Michelle Cisneros.
Morning, Chair Harnick and Commissioners. Today's presentation is going to outline the Commission's initial draft of the fiscal year 22 budget. I'll review our budget process and considerations for this year's budget, and we'll look to you for any input. Next slide, please. The Commission's budget process involves several steps. In December, we began the budget development by preparing our revenue projections, and in January and February, we updated the Commission and departmental goals and objectives. Since early March, the Finance Department has been compiling the budget data that was submitted by our departments, and we're continuing to analyze and reconcile various pieces of the budget. The result of our initial effort is the executive summary that I'm presenting to you. Today, we're seeking your input on the proposed budget, and we will bring the final and complete budget document to the Commission on June 9th for the closing of the public hearing and budget adoption, which is required by June 15th of each year. Next slide. The Commission's practice has been to accumulate revenues for specific projects and programs, since we have the flexibility to adjust our project development. With lean staffing relative to the required tasks and demands, the Commission outsources a very significant portion of our work to various consultants. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic and its impacts over the last year, our sales tax revenues in Riverside County have performed surprisingly better than we ever expected. This can be attributed to the Measure A sales taxes assessed based on destination versus point of sale. And additionally, the timing of the Wayfair decision benefited the Commission due to the large volume of online sales during the pandemic. This has made the Commission resilient during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our final and complete budget document presented to the Commission in June will reflect an increase in our Measure A and LTF projections for both fiscal years 21 and 22 based on current economic data. Based on our current overall revenue projections, our reserves will be used to fund some of our capital projects as well as our transit needs. Our financing needs will require our final drawdown on the 15 express lanes project TIFIA loan in early fiscal year 2022. We will also resume the refinancing of the 91 express lanes toll debt that the Commission had approved at the March 2020 meeting, but postponed soon thereafter due to market disruptions from COVID-19. Some of the primary goals for the refinancing were to achieve debt service savings and increase the Commission's ability to fund and accelerate the 91 corridor projects with surplus revenues. We are currently updating our traffic and revenue projections and then the financing model so that we can revise all the legal documents, bring them back to the Commission for approval, and hopefully complete the transaction this fall if the market conditions are right. Next slide, please. Staff is anticipating beginning the new fiscal year with $1 billion in fund balance. Our fiscal year 22 estimated sources are budgeted at $1.6 billion and estimated uses at $1.7 billion. The budget anticipates that uses will exceed our sources by $143 million, resulting in the use of project and program fund balance reserves, primarily for our 15 express lanes completion, the Lake Elsinore 15 Railroad Canyon, the 79 realignment, the Mid-County Parkway, including the 215 Placentia interchange and its second construction project, the closeout of the 91 project, the Coachella Valley Measure A and regional arterial projects, and various transit and specialized transportation projects that use LTF, STA, and Measure A funds. Of the $858 million projected ending fund balance, 99.4% is restricted for specific projects and programs which are funded by Measure A, TDA, TUMP, Motorist Assistance, and toll operations. The remaining 0.6% is assigned for management services. Next slide. The Commission's revenues come from several different sources, but primarily from our sales tax revenues and federal and state reimbursements. The sales tax revenue projections approved by the Commission in January assumed flat revenues. However, staff is currently revising these projections, and we will present these in the final budget document at the June Commission meeting. The current Measure A revenues projections represent about 12% of our annual sources, and they are distributed to the 3 geographic areas. Western County will receive about $152 million, or 78%. Coachella Valley will receive $42 million, or 21%. And Palo Verde Valley will receive about $1 million, or 1%. Our LTF revenues represent 6%, and our STA revenues represent 2% of the Commission's total sources. Our intergovernmental revenues at 21% consist primarily of federal and state reimbursements for project costs that tend to vary with project activity. Some of these significant projects will include the Mid-County Parkway 215 Placentia Interchange and its second construction project, the 7191 connector, the 60 truck lanes, the 15 express lanes southern extension, the 91 corridor operations project, the 1591 express lanes connector, the Harupa and McKinley Avenue grade separation projects, and rail station rehabilitation and improvements. Our TUMP revenues represent less than 1% of our total sources. Our estimated tolls, penalties, and fees at 4% of our total sources include the 91 express lanes revenues at $41.5 million for the 5th full year of the 91 express lanes operations and $23.6 million for the first full year of the 15 express lanes operations. Other revenues and investment income account for less than 1% of our total sources. And interest rates are so low that investment income is expected to be minimal. Our transfers in are 12% of our sources, and they are primarily for debt service funding, the 15 express lanes project, the 1591 express lanes connector, the Hamner Bridge widening, the Mid-County Parkway 215 Placentia interchange, and rail maintenance and operations. And our debt proceeds relate to the refinancing of the 91 express lanes toll debt. And staff is also anticipating the final drawdown of the TIF for the 15 express lanes project. Next slide. This chart shows the comparison of all commission sources. Many of the fiscal year 22 revenues are relatively flat compared to fiscal year 21, with the exception of intergovernmental reimbursements and debt proceeds. Our intergovernmental reimbursements are higher by 24%, primarily due to the Mid-County Parkway 215 Placentia interchange and its second construction project, the 7191 connector, the 60 truck lanes, the 15 express lanes southern extension, the 91 corridor operations project, the 1591 express lanes connector, and the Harupa and McKinley Avenue grade separation projects. As mentioned earlier, our debt proceeds are a bit higher due to the one-time refinancing of the 91 express lanes toll debt later this fall. And any adjustments to the fiscal year 22 revenue projections can be made in the next week, and they will be reflected in the final budget document presented to the Commission in June. Next slide, please. This table shows the Commission's program, operations, and capital project uses by department. In a couple of slides, I'll highlight some of the capital highway, rail, and regional arterial projects included in this budget. Our capital local streets and roads expenditures are the Measure A sales tax revenues returned back to our local jurisdictions. The commuter assistance reflects a 10% decrease due to the declines in its projected van pools and restructuring of the rideshare van pool platforms. The debt service reflects a significant increase due to the one-time refinancing of the 91 Express Lanes toll debt that is anticipated in this fall. Our management services has increased 2% primarily due to FTE allocations and new positions to maintain service levels for a full year, as well as professional support services of the regional conservation management, as well as commission insurance. Our motorist assistance and planning and programming have remained relatively flat. Our public and specialized transit reflects a 32% increase, and this is primarily due to the decreased operating subsidy needs in the previous year, resulting from the available federal COVID relief funding. This draft budget does include the estimated allocations for transit operations and capital, as staff was still reviewing the SRTPs. Updated amounts will be included in the final budget at the June commission meeting. Our rail maintenance and operations has decreased 18% due to the inability to obtain access agreements with the host railroads for the Indio Special Events Train platform for the Coachella Valley San Gorgonio Pass corridor rail service. The regional conservation has increased 172%, and this is due to a full year of RCA management as compared to only 6 months of management in fiscal year 21. As you know, the commission became the managing agency for RCA in January of 2021. And our toll operations reflects a 101% increase due to a full year of operations of the 15 express lanes, required repair and rehabilitation activity on the 91 express lanes, use of surplus toll revenues for the 15 91 express lanes connector. Next slide, please. This chart shows the significance of the Commission's primary project-driven environment as reflected in the capital highway, rail, and regional arterial categories, and represents 36% of the total budget. As mentioned, our capital local streets and roads, which is the Measure A sales tax that is returned to the local jurisdictions, it represents 3% of our total budget. Our debt service primarily reflects the one-time refinancing of the 91 Express Lanes toll debt, and it represents about 42% of our total budget. Our commuter assistance, management services, motorist assistance, planning and programming, and regional conservation are a very small percentage of our total expenditures, and altogether represents only 3% of our total budget. Our public and specialized transit represents 9%, and rail maintenance and operations 3% of the total budget. And our toll operations for the 91 and 15 express lanes are 4% of the Commission's total budget. Next slide, please. Significant capital projects identified for fiscal year 22 will include to continue activities to complete the 15 express lanes, construction and design build activities for the 1591 express lanes connector, primarily funded by SB 132, construction activities on the 91 corridor operations project, wrap up various activities on the 91 project primarily related to right-of-way activities, engineering, construction, and right-of-way activities on the Mid-County Parkway 215 Placentia interchange and its second construction project, construction activities on the 60 truck lanes project, and other capital projects that include the 7191 connector, the 15 express lanes southern extension, the 15 corridor operations project, the Pachapa underpass, the Harupa and McKinley Avenue grade separation projects, and various rail and regional arterial projects. Next slide, please. This table presents the Commission's expenditure by function, whereas the previous slides I mentioned focused more on the department level. The 1.9 million or 14% increase in salaries and benefits is related to a full year of additional staff for regional conservation and maintaining management service levels, the reinstatement of funding for 4 previously approved positions, a 4% pool for performance merit-based salary increases, and an annual salary range adjustment. Our professional services are expected to decrease by 8% due to the completion of the traffic relief plan, refocusing on rail operations and planning efforts, and change in hosting of regional rideshare van pool system platforms. Our support costs will increase about 5%, primarily for the support and maintenance of toll operations, which includes the first full year of 15 express lanes. Our projects and operations will increase about 15% based on project activities I had noted previously on the capital development and delivery slide. Our debt service will increase significantly due to the one-time refinancing of the 91 express lanes toll debt. And our capital outlay will increase 5% for station rehabilitation projects. Next slide, please. This chart shows that our projects and operations and debt service are the largest functional expenditure groups. This chart illustrates the Commission's core project-driven environment with an operations component related to the 91 and 15 express lanes. It's important to reiterate that the primary sources to fund our projects and operations costs come from new revenues such as sales taxes, federal and state reimbursements, project fund balance reserves, and transfers from debt proceeds. Next slide, please. This budget is still a work in progress, and the final budget presented to the Commission in June will reflect adjustments to revenues and costs based on our continued analysis. We will also continue to monitor all the revenue trends and project reimbursements from federal and state agencies. The fiscal year 22 budget reflects that we will be below the 1% Measure A cap on management services and salaries at 0.71%. Additionally, in regard to the board adopted policy limiting the total management services cost at 4%, we project those costs to be at 2%. Based on input we received from the May Budget and Implementation Committee and staff's continued analysis so far, staff expects changes to the final budget document in June to include an increase in our Measure A and LTF sales tax revenues due to better economic data that has been received, a decrease in specialized transportation operating and capital disbursements based on updated SRTPs that have been received from our transit operators, and an increase to our salaries and benefits based on the Executive Committee review and approval of the reorganization and staffing increases needed at the Commission to perform required tasks and demands. Lastly, following the Commission's management of RCA in January, our right-of-way staff immediately began work on the RCA Habitat Acquisition Program and began incurring costs through the Commission consultant contracts. After further analysis of the fiscal year 21 regional conservation right-of-way expenditures, staff has determined that an additional $250,000 budget adjustment is needed to carry us through June. As noted in item number 3 of the staff report, staff is requesting your approval for a fiscal year 21 budget adjustment of $250,000 for right-of-way expenditures and its related reimbursement. Staff will complete our analysis in the next week and finalize the budget for the June Commission meeting with the closing of the public hearing and adopting of the final budget. This does conclude my presentation, and I thank you for your time and look to you for your input and suggestions.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. Are there any questions or comments? Wait, I have to open the public hearing. So I'll open the public hearing and ask for any comments from the public. No, I see none in the participants box. Do you see any?
I do not see any.
Thank you. Now I'll take comments and questions from the commissioners. Are there any? I see Commissioner McGee, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I did not see, well, first of all, $1 billion budget. That's pretty amazing. It's not the first time that we've been here. During one of the budget committee meetings, we talked about one of our guiding principles being equity. And I believe that we can all agree that equity ought to drive us, pun intended, as we deliver these funds and projects. You heard that we have a new obligation now, managing the agency known as RCA. And we heard that managing that regional conservation authority amounts to less than 3% of our budget. So at 3%, with equity being one of our guiding principles, I look forward to staff's plan on how to make the administration of the RCA and the MSHCP equitable among all of the partners. So I plan on supporting this because guiding principle includes equity. So I look forward to hearing the implementation on how we're going to get there as we have now taken on this new assignment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next in the queue, Supervisor Jeffries, please.
Yeah, my question is actually more directed for Ann. If you don't mind, Madam Chair.
Please.
Extreme criticism now for the 15 South just nightmare, going from what I think is 6 lanes down to 3 as you approach Cajalco, and literally miles of dead stopped traffic now on the 15 South. Adopting this budget, or starting the budget process to adopt it, what do I say? What does Les Speak say to the residents who see this mostly as a failure? Although one could argue we were successful in moving the bottleneck from the heart of the 1591, a couple miles to Cajalco Road. What's our response in adopting a nearly $1 billion budget that may not really ever fix the problem there now? And I don't mean to put you on the spot. I got to have an answer for them.
Thank you very much. So a couple of comments. The I-15 Express Lanes project opened last month, and we've been very carefully monitoring the south end. There is significant congestion on the south end. Not only do we have the reduction of the lanes at Cajalco, but we also have a situation where all of the auxiliary lanes at each of the on-ramps in that area of Corona, there are lane drops. So we've got a combination of a lot of freeway traffic. We have a lot of traffic getting on at Ontario, Magnolia, and Cajalco Road, all going south. So we've got kind of this, I'll call it a perfect storm of traffic congestion there, where we're absolutely trying to do whatever mitigation that we can for that. So a couple of things we're doing right now. We are working closely with Caltrans on modifications to the ramp metering. What has been very clear is that when the ramp meters on those ramps are working, it reduces the congestion on the main line. So we're working with Caltrans. We adjusted timing again yesterday, so we're monitoring that very closely. We are also looking at operations. We're doing time trials to see, before and after what's happening, to see what modifications we can make to ease that congestion at Cajalco. In addition, included in the budget is continued work on the I-15 corridor operations project, which is an almost $40 million project to extend a lane from Cajalco all the way down to Wyrick. So the commission approved that last year. We're continuing to work on that. And commissioners, I have to say, it was never our intent to only build half of that project. When the commission approved the project in 2006, it was supposed to go all the way to Lake Elsinore and Highway 74. The recession hit in 2010. It had to all get cut back because we just didn't have enough money. And unfortunately, we're in a situation where we can only build what we have money for. So we're incrementally building on the 15. That we had to do this on the 215 as well. We have congestion all over the county on the 15, the 215, the 10, and we're basically just building pieces at a time. And we are moving bottlenecks. And without enough money, that's kind of the mode we're in. We build what we have the money for. And frankly, we're not going to build our way out of this. We're trying, we're trying, we can't stay ahead of it. Just from when this project was approved in 2010 till when it opened, I don't know how many more houses got built along that I-15 corridor. I mean, we just can't chase this. as hard as we try, and I assure you all, we are trying desperately hard. The commission has spent over $2 billion just within the city limits of Corona trying to tackle the 91 and I-15. We can keep doing it, but we're not going to catch up. We have to figure out ways of having the freeways operate better. I mean, we got the next agenda item, there's the smart freeway concept in Temecula. But commissioners, I am highly concerned that this is the situation we are in as population continues to grow. So supervisor, that was a very long commentary by me, and I don't know that I helped you much, but what I will say, we know there's congestion there. We did careful analysis on how we could stripe that area so it wouldn't give all of the advantage to the express lanes. We reduced the number of express lanes towards the south end. We didn't want to impact everyone trying to get on the freeway. It is a tough situation, but I assure you, we're monitoring it. We're working with Caltrans, and we've got the next segment coming. And we're not going to be able to build our way out of it. We've got to figure out a better way to do this, because it's a matter of money, not a lack of desire or anything else. We simply don't have the money.
Welcome to California.
Yeah. Well, thank you for those comments. And I would say not only a lack of money, because I know RCTC spends an unfortunate amount of time looking for money for these projects, but it's also a shift in thinking because we can't build our way out of it. I have one question, if I may, at this point, and I see there are more people in the queue. When Michelle mentioned that the 1591 express lane connector and the I-15 express lanes that will be worked on in this coming year, or we're looking at, will that have any impact on the congestion? Is there any mitigation effort there?
So the 1591 express lanes connector is mostly, it is a connection to the north. So that is connecting the 91 express lanes to the I-15 express lanes to the north to serve Corona, Norco, Eastvale, and Jurupa Valley. So that one is primarily going to alleviate congestion and improve connectivity between the 91 and the communities to the north. The I-15 corridor operations project that I mentioned is in the design and environmental phase right now. It won't be going to construction next year, but we do have money in the budget to continue doing that work on an accelerated basis.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next, Commissioner Speak.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Commissioner Supervisor Jeffries, for bringing that up. We are both getting slammed with that, and I apologize for the angry emails and the passing those on to you and my frustration, but it is real, and I know that staff knows it's real. And I want to say to all my fellow commissioners, thank you for the investments and the continued investments that this budget does show. But as the supervisor said, and as the executive director said, we still have a long way to go, and we do have some funding shortfalls, and hopefully this interim project will allow us to I keep asking, I think I ask Ann every couple of weeks about how fast can we do this? Can we do it a little faster? But I've said this a few times. The folks in West Riverside County have spent $2 billion, just like our executive director just said, to help traffic flow through these two freeways. And it's time for the state to pony up too, and I've said that a few times. I know the city of Corona passed a resolution back last year, maybe the year before. Caltrans did a study on some auxiliary lanes, and there's a need. They're saying it's a need. I wanted, and maybe this is for a future agenda item for us to get some support from my colleagues here for pursuing that at the state level and finding ways for them to do it. I think that, frankly, we shouldn't have to pay for it. I think that the folks in West Riverside County have ponied up enough, but we deserve those fixes on the 15 will help those bottlenecks. And it's an awful situation. And I anyone that wants to join me on a weekday afternoon or a Saturday or a Sunday and stand on the bridge at Cajalco and look north and look at the desperation in people's eyes is it's maddening. So but that, I guess, more of a comment than a question, but I just want to say thank you, and a thank you to all of you for continuing to invest in Corona with this budget, and to really the 91 and 15 being a lifeblood for Western Riverside County. And I've said a million times, the better the freeway moves, the less impacts we have on all of our communities. So thank you.
Thank you. And next is Commissioner Hoffman, please.
Thank you. And I concur with my colleague from Corona, Mr. Speaks. I traveled that I-15 in going south, and you make sure you take the right time to go there and come back, because it is a mess. My concern, though, in this budget, and maybe Ms. Myers, she talked about the lack of money or the availability of money, is that 851% in increase in our debt service. And we have a $2 billion budget, and we're sitting there with almost $800,000 in debt. I mean, or more than that. Do we have a plan for that? On a plan how to get that debt service down? Because the interest eventually will eat us up. And I'm sure the state talks about having all this extra money. The feds talk about printing up more money. How are we going to handle that debt service? That will ruin us.
So, Commissioner, thank you very much for the question. It's a very good question. So let me give you a little bit of background. Measure A, in fact, in 2010, the voters authorized up to $975 million in debt at any one time. So RCTC is actually capped by voter determination in the amount of debt that can be issued, and we are capped at $975 million, and that's a Measure A debt limit. When we went to build the 91 project, which was a $1.4 billion project, and then we have the I-15 project that's recently finished, we financed both of those projects through the use of a federal TIFIA loan. So we received a low interest loan from the federal government to finance both of those projects. In addition, on the 91 project, we issued toll revenue bonds, which were bonds that we were issued to pay back with toll revenue. And we've also used some Measure A bonds. Now, while it may seem counterintuitive, this is actually a pretty good opportunity for us. The debt service included in the budget, we are refinancing our debt on the 91 to lower our interest rates and to lower our interest payments. And we had last year, right before we all went on lockdown for COVID, the commission had approved a refinancing plan that would not only, with the right market conditions, reduce our overall debt, but also allow us to pay off the TIFIA loan issued by the federal government and use other debt instruments, so that we would no longer owe the federal government a significant amount of money. And that debt from a TIFIA loan comes with a lot of strings attached. There are a lot of reporting requirements. In fact, that TIFIA loan, there are restrictions on what this commission can do with its surplus revenue. We're now at a point on the 91 where, with surplus revenue, once all of the costs have been paid, we share it 50-50 with the federal government. So we keep 50% of our surplus revenue. The other 50% goes to the federal government to purchase down our debt. So by paying off the TIFIA loan, refinancing, we're saving money, we're streamlining costs. This commission will have control over 100% of the surplus revenues. on the 91, and you can choose to continue paying down more debt, or you can choose to invest in other projects. So that is a very large number, but it's a good news story in that we're doing it to save the commission and the taxpayers overall, both money as well as retain some more local control over the investment. So I hope that answers the question. And again, we are capped with the amount of debt that we can issue.
It does, Ann, and I appreciate that. At least I know there's a plan out there other than just going willy-nilly on it. Well, thank you.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, we now have Supervisor Washington, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Ann, thank you for that thorough explanation. In my comments, I was going to reference, I believe it was 2018, I accompanied you and RCTC staff to New York as we made the rounds with the rating agencies. I learned an immeasurable amount regarding not only financing and debt, but I don't believe without the debt, the improvements on the 91 would have been done or completed. Is that correct? A $1.2 billion. That was the only way to do it.
Yes.
Kind of like buying a house. Some people say, well, you should just save up and pay cash and you save yourself all the interest, but it might take you 30 years to save it up. So financing is the only way to get these big projects done. And you're doing it in a fashion that is top shelf. I was filled with pride as we made our rounds to the rating agencies, and they were telling me about how they wished all of the different entities that finance infrastructure, such as the very prevalent toll passageways up and down the eastern seaboard there, they wish that they were more like RCTC in the way we managed our finances, in the way we managed our debt. And I don't know that all of the commissioners are aware of the details of how you do that and how we function at a very high level. At the risk of perhaps getting poked by Commissioner Benoit, I'm going to share one of those stupid guy stories. A month ago, Kathy and I decided we needed to get on a road trip. We had not been on one in a number of years, and we were fully vaccinated, and we decided to drive to Santa Barbara. We left on a Friday, midday, noon from Temecula, and my Google Maps said we'd arrive in Santa Barbara at 3:30. But I made a key mistake. I was driving north on the 15 and got in the toll lane, which took me west on the 91. And I was not aware that I couldn't get out to get on the 71. I ended up not getting out there, couldn't get out anywhere else until finally it steered me through downtown Los Angeles. And so I got a very up close and personal tour of traffic midday on a Friday throughout Southern California. We arrived in Santa Barbara after 5 hours of driving, as opposed to the very long and arduous 3.5 hours. It pretty much cured me for wanting to do road trips in Southern California. And just so that no one else in our group here feels like they're the only ones being singled out for bad traffic, as you acknowledged, southbound on the 215, southbound on the 15, as they near the merge and then beyond, are pretty dramatically bad every day. And in the last 6 or 7 months, there have been 2 fatal accidents southbound on the 15 near Temecula, pretty much due to a combination of driver inattention and traffic backups. I'm not saying this as a complaint. I know you know that there's a problem, but I wanted to share so that no one thinks that their particular region of Riverside County is being neglected.
You're on mute, Madam
Yeah,
Chair.
thank you. Supervisor Spiegel?
Yes, I can't really say much more in addition to what's being said, but something that we tend to fail to look at is that why we are at the point of expanding. It happened on the 91. We had a couple of decades, and I have gone back and you could find newspaper articles long before on the 91 needing to improve the situation on the traffic. So when Ann talks about the additional housing, and it's a double-edged sword. The state tells us we have to keep adding housing, but they aren't adding the transportation and roadways for us. So, then we get stuck with it. But the same thing's happening with going on the 15. We have been having problems for quite some time. This is not new. It's not only because of the 15 expansion, which because you do construction, people assume that that's why it's worse. It was bad. We were trying to make it better. And we, as the elected officials, need to remind them. And that it's not just the construction. It's not because we went from 5 to 4 lanes or 5 to 3 lanes or whatever it is. We were already backing up at Cajalco. That was the reason we were looking at it, the reason for the expansion with the projections of the additional housing. And these are key factors that we have to remind them. It's hard. And I did that and got my head handed to me on many occasions. And Wes can attest to that. But if we don't stick together with the same message that it was at the necessity of adding more roadway, and as we added it, we continue to grow. I mean, we started the 91, the expansion, a decade ago or longer than that. And some of the beginnings is just trying to capture the money. I mean, when we're talking about some of our legislative trips and our funding trips, it was back in 2010 and before. And same thing with the 15. So this happens, it takes a few years just to get everything in order before we even pour the cement. So it really is important to remind folks that we were trying to expand at the request of constituents complaining of the traffic increasing. So it is, yes, we are getting more housing built, but there was also a demand before those houses came. So we have to get the same message. Our constituents aren't happy. I'm not happy. I went down yesterday to Lake Elsinore and it was a little crowded, but I don't know what the magic answer is. As Ann says, it's just a few extra $1 million, $1 billion, whatever it is, to fix everything. And we don't have that, so we have to do this piece by piece. So as I said, we are the message carriers, and we need to make sure that we have that same message.
Okay, and I want to remind everyone that this is a public hearing on the budget. So are there
millions? I mentioned millions. We'll take billions.
Yeah, no, I heard it. I heard it. It was in there. Does anyone else have any comments on the budget? Now, this public hearing remains open until June 9th, but in the meantime, do we have a motion and second?
San Jacinto move.
Supervisor Perez, seconds.
Thank you very much. And can we have a roll call vote?
What is the motion?
The motion.
Staff's recommendation?
Yes. Thank you, Supervisor.
District 1. District 1. District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Aye.
District 5.
Yes.
Banning.
Yes.
Beaumont.
Yes.
Blythe.
Yes.
Calamasa.
An appreciative yes.
Canyon Lake.
Yes.
Cathedral City.
Yes.
Coachella. Coachella.
Well, you're waiting for them. First district is a yes. I apologize.
Thank you. Corona.
Aye.
Desert Hot Springs.
Aye.
Eastvale.
Aye.
Hemet.
Yes.
Indian Wells.
Well, on the $250,000, yes, that's all we're voting on. Is that correct?
Yes.
Indio,
Aye.
Rupa Valley,
Yes.
La Quinta,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
$250,000 toward equity in the RCA system. Aye.
thank you. Menifee,
Yes.
Marina Valley,
Yes.
Marietta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Palm Desert,
Yes.
Palm Springs,
Aye.
Paris,
Yes.
Rancho Mirage,
Yes.
Riverside,
Yes.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula, Wildemar.
Yes.
Thank you. The item passes.
Thank you so much. Now, let's try and get back on track here. We're on the consent calendar. These are items 8A through 8K. Are there any comments or a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Cathedral City moves approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote?
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Aye.
District 5,
Yes.
Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Yes.
Cathedral City,
Yes.
Coachella, Corona,
Aye,
Desert Hot-
sorry, I
That's
keep
okay,
pushing the
thank
wrong button.
Desert Hot Springs,
Aye.
Eastville,
Aye.
Hemet,
Yes.
Indian Wells,
Yes.
Indio,
Aye.
Rupa Valley, Rupa Valley, La Quinta,
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Aye.
Menifee,
Aye.
Marina Valley,
Yes.
Marietta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Palm Desert,
Yes.
Palm Springs,
Aye.
Paris,
Yes.
Rancho Mirage,
Yes.
Riverside,
Yes.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Wildemar.
Yes.
Thank you. The item
Irma-
passes.
Yes as well. I'm sorry I missed the vote.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now go to number 9, the Measure A Specialized Transit Award recommendations. Monica Morales, please.
Good morning, Chair Harnick and members of the commission. I have a brief PowerPoint presentation for you today. Next slide, please. The Measure A Specialized Transit Program receives about 1.9% of the 2009 Measure A Western County Program revenues. The program provides funding to benefit older adults, persons with disabilities, and or those that are the most vulnerable and truly needy within Western County. The Western County is funding that has been distributed through a competitive process to a wide array of nonprofit and community organizations that serve these constituencies for specialized transit services for persons with disabilities and older adults. The Measure A Specialized Transit Call is a 3-year cycle. The commission is about to complete its 5th cycle of the program ending June 30th. And as with previous calls, the goal is to have a seamless transition between cycles. In order to be able to start the 6th cycle on July 1st, the commission approved the release of the program guidelines and application with a total of $8.76 million in available funding. Application submittals were due on February 17th, and the commission received project applications from 16 agencies. Next slide, please. 19 total projects were submitted. Of the eligible projects submitted, 14 were for operating projects, 2 for mileage reimbursement, and 3 for capital projects, all totaling roughly 9.717 million in requests. After final scores and analysis, staff determined that some of the applications exceeded the maximum amount allowable per project and or included non-eligible expenses. With that information, staff worked with agencies to adjust funding requests. The new proposed award total is roughly 8.95 million, which is only 191,257,000 more than the approved available amount, which staff recommends to use from fund balance. This slide shows award amounts in ascending order by type, but you can find award amounts by ranking order in your agenda on page 379. Next slide, please. The City of Menifee submitted an application for a dial-a-ride voucher program. However, it was determined that the request was not consistent with the specialized transit goals, since it would create new dial-a-ride trips rather than mitigating growth on the more costly service. The city hoped that through this voucher program, it would be able to gather information to develop a more robust specialized transit service for its residents in the future. In discussion with city staff, the city opted to rescind its application, and RCTC staff recommended a more detailed analysis to be completed prior to the deployment of a new program or service. RCTC staff recognizes the city's needs to address their specialized transit population and propose to work with the city in a pilot project that will provide a tailored city-level market analysis of its seniors, disabled, low-income population, including surveys, community meetings, and outreach with local service agencies, provide education and outreach to maximize existing resources, conduct a mini symposium, and bring in other small nonprofit providers in the measuring network to share best practices, experiences, and project development ideas, as well as provide practical recommendations that the city may take to deploy a pilot program. Staff recommends approval of this pilot project as it fits within the goals and objectives for the Measure A specialized transit program, and which includes building capacity. Looking at the larger picture for specialized transit, RCTC staff hopes that the outcome of this analysis can be used for other communities within the region. Next slide, please. As indicated on this slide, staff is seeking the commission to approve recommendations 1 through 4. This would approve just a little over 8.9 million in contract awards for the Measure A specialized transit program call, 150,000 for a specialized transit pilot program with the City of Menifee, and it allows staff, legal counsel, and chair or executive director to execute the agreements. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on that? And I'll entertain a motion, please.
So moved, Paris.
District.
We have a motion and a second.
Marietta, second.
Thank you. Roll call vote.
District 1, District 1, District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Aye.
District 5.
Yes.
District 1's a yes, sorry.
Thank you. Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Aye.
Cathedral City,
Yes.
Coachella, Corona, Corona, Desert Hot Springs,
Aye.
Eastvale, Eastvale, Hemet,
Yes.
Indian Wells,
Yes.
Indio?
Madam Clerk, Corona's a yes. I'm sorry, I had a problem there.
thank you. Indio,
Aye.
Harupa Valley,
Yes.
La Quinta,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Aye.
Menifee,
Yes.
Marina Valley, Marina Valley,
Yes. Sorry about that.
thank you. Marietta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Palm Desert,
Yes.
Palm Springs,
Aye.
Paris,
Yes.
Rancho Mirage,
Yes.
Riverside,
Yes.
San Jacinto, San Jacinto, Wildemar.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is Clint, Eastville, connection problem. Aye.
Thank you. The item does pass.
Thank you. We'll now move to 10. It's the Coachella Valley San Gorgonio Pass Rail Corridor study, and Sheldon Peterson will give us a presentation.
Yes, good morning, Chair Harnack and members of the commission. First off, I want to thank all the supporters of this project on the commission and appreciate your patience in us getting through this effort and finally getting to the point where we're able to release the environmental document that we'll talk about today. I also want to thank RCTC leadership and our partners at Caltrans and FRA for helping us to move this project along. When I was last here in December, we gave an overview of the project, talked about some of the operational issues we were identifying, and let you know that we would come back in the spring to discuss and release the admin draft, and that's kind of where we are today. With the next slide. We'll go ahead and go through this agenda today. I'll try to keep it moving, but we'll cover many of the issues and talk about what is involved with this release. The first thing I do want to do is to go to the next slide and introduce you to a video of the Coachella Valley Rail Project. This was actually the world premiere, so you're the first to see it, but it's just a good overview and helps for us with our outreach efforts to share what the project looks like. So you can get that started, Lisa.
Living in Southern California gives us access to the ocean, the mountains, the city, and the desert. With a growing number of entertainment options, it's no wonder the Coachella Valley is seeing a record-breaking number of visitors each year. But traveling along I-10 in either direction can be frustrating due to traffic and hours behind the wheel. Wouldn't it be great if we had a more relaxing way to travel? Southern California has the second busiest passenger rail corridor in the nation, extending north and south between San Diego and Santa Barbara. What's missing is the west-east connection between Los Angeles and the Coachella Valley. The Coachella Valley San Gorgonio Pass Rail Corridor Service proposes to connect Southern California communities to the beautiful Coachella Valley, providing a reliable and environmentally friendly way to access many attractions. The Riverside County Transportation Commission, Caltrans, and the Federal Railroad Administration are proposing a 144-mile passenger rail corridor to help get you out of your car and on your way to a new adventure. Let's take a peek at the future possibilities. At the western end of the rail line is picturesque Los Angeles Union Station, which boasts the largest railroad passenger terminal in the western United States, with countless local and regional connections.
Hello? Hello?
Traveling east from Los Angeles, the first stop is revitalized downtown Fullerton. Listen to music, discover architecture, and enjoy this popular entertainment destination and cultural center. This stop also provides access to Disneyland and other amazing attractions and venues in Orange County. Our journey continues east to downtown Riverside. This bustling area offers museums, theaters, dining, and the historic Mission Inn Hotel and Spa that sponsors its annual Festival of Lights. A station in the San Gorgonio Pass will provide access to the growing communities of Banning and Beaumont, a world-class resort and spa, shopping, and the famous Cabazon dinosaurs. Our next stop is Palm Springs, the vibrant and legendary getaway city with great nightlife and stunning desert scenery. The line continues east to the heart of the beautiful Coachella Valley, home to premier golf courses, dining, resorts, spas, gaming, and miles of hiking and cycling trails, including Joshua Tree National Park. Our journey finishes at the eastern end of the rail line with potential stops in Indio and Coachella near world-renowned music festivals and unique celebrations, such as the Date and Tamale Festivals. Whether you're traveling east or west, there's a new adventure waiting for you at each stop. We're approaching our next milestone of the project with the release of the Draft Environmental Impact Statement Environmental Impact Report. While service is still years away, we are laying the foundation and actively seeking funding now to make this journey a reality for the future. Visit our webpage to learn more about this innovative project. Most importantly, we want to hear from you, so please provide your feedback on our draft environmental document. We're on this journey together, so let's imagine the possibilities of the future.
Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that. It was fun for us to put it together, and I think it does a great job of explaining what this project looks like. As part of the documents, we've updated our map a little bit. You may recall we had circles of catchment areas around potential stations through Riverside County. We've now kind of narrowed it down to identify that those stations would be along the rail line, obviously, to make it a little bit closer. The project proposes 2 round trips, and that's what's included in the environmental document, with potentially up to 6 stations east of Colton for this rail line. Next slide. The purpose and need is obvious: to provide convenient and competitive public transportation between Coachella Valley and Los Angeles. Talk about population, employment growth, limited constrained travel options, and the opportunity to serve some disadvantaged communities, which is why Coachella as a final endpoint seems like a good opportunity. Next slide. As we identified in the video, we're going through some large blocks in this process. We're nearing the end of the current program level Tier 1 EIS, EIR, and Service Development Plan. In the future, we'll move to even larger blocks of conceptual engineering and the Tier 2 project specific, and then eventually final design, construction, and operation over the next several years. Next slide. So when we look at what we're actually delivering in this round is a very high level, program level environmental document that'll satisfy both the federal and state environmental requirements. It's very broad in its perspective, looking at the train operations and infrastructure improvements and construction impacts along a very broad corridor. What this tees up is the next phase, which is more of a project level or Tier 2 environmental document. That would identify specific locations for train tracks, bridges, crossovers, signals, and future potential stations, and look at the impacts of those unique stations on the communities along the way. So that is the next phase, but today we're talking about the program level. Next slide. So to go a little bit into more detail of what is included in this document as far as multiple options, we do have a no-build alternative that talks about if there was no passenger rail. Just everyone understands that, you know, these are potentially freight tracks, so freight growth will continue. There'll still be impacts, but the passengers won't be involved necessarily. So when we look at the actual options, the option 1 for the environmental document looked at 2 round trips with the eastern terminus in Coachella. There would be 6 station stops, basically between Colton and Coachella, and we would build a 3rd track to address capacity issues for that entire section. The option 2 identified a very similar route, but instead of going that extra 4 miles to Coachella, that train and the triple track would stop in Indio. The 3rd option we worked through with FRA identified a similar destination point of Indio with the 5 stations, but would actually reduce that triple track section in the Mid-Valley. So instead of having 3 tracks from Mid-Valley, the additional 12 miles to Indio, it's environmentally clearing a section of lesser than those 3 tracks. And what that looks like, it's a little hard to tell on the map, but there's sections that are a little bit bolder, which are the station area sections. So in the envelope of the study, it's basically going 1,500 feet on each side of the railroad center line. So that would accommodate a station parking in those sections. In the non-station areas, it looked at a study of 800 feet on each side of the right-of-way. So that's kind of the envelope or the window that the study addresses environmental impacts related to this effort. And like I said, it has those two terminus options, both either Colton or Indio. Next slide. So we're at the exciting part now where we're getting ready to ramp up the release of the environmental document. Last week, we had a very successful technical advisory committee with about 43 participants, including Amtrak, FRA, EPA, our Transit Commission partners, both in Los Angeles, Orange County, San Bernardino, as well as city staff from a lot of the local cities. So everyone got a good understanding of what the project will look like. Today, we're sharing the message with you, the commission. Tomorrow, we'll be speaking with our partners and neighbors in San Bernardino County to give them a heads up, all leading up to the very exciting public release draft of May 21st, which hopefully will be a huge sigh of relief personally getting this going forward. So next slide. So then the process phase, the public comments will be a 45-day period from May 21st to July 6th, covering both Memorial Day and July 4th, oddly enough. The virtual public hearings will be held 30 days after the release. So it'll be Tuesday evening, June 22nd and Saturday morning, June 26th. That will make and get the word out to have people participate in a public discussion, reviewing the environmental document. At the end of this process, the goal is to have a preferred alternative based on that analysis and the public comments, basically for environmental clearance at a very high level. We'll prepare the final environmental document and hope to get that record of decision, if all goes well, by the end of 2021. Concurrently, we'll be continuing on the service development plan with completion in November of 2021. Next slide. So as we're reaching out for public comments, the draft environmental documents will be available on the RCTC project website and also at some local libraries along the project corridor. We do have that 45-day public window, and public comments will be accepted on 3 primary ways. First off, FRA helped us coordinate to get the regulations.gov website set up that'll allow us to accept comments electronically. Traditionally, there's also an opportunity to provide regular mail to the FRA that will be part of the postings and outreach, and also as verbal comments during the virtual public hearings. We'll have the court reporters, as we tend to do, to take down any comments directly verbally through the meeting, which we will have translated as well. On the next slide, we'll go ahead and answer any questions. One of the things we do need is your support to try to get the word out. We do have updated fact sheets that were part of the agenda item. We do have them translated in Spanish. We'll have links to the videos available, and just to try to do what we can to get as much public comment on this, understand what the community is looking for, understand what you're looking for, so we can lead it off into any future phases. So with that, I do have JD Douglas with HDR and their phenomenal team that's helped us put this together, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you so much. And I have Commissioner Middleton, you have your hand up.
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Sheldon, thank you for a really good report, and very pleased to see this. Could you remind us what the cost estimates are for building the third rail from Colton to the Coachella Valley?
Yeah, the very early estimates without any solid engineering is roughly $1 billion to make that investment, including the stations. So that does seem like a very large number. The state is investing heavily in rail, and there's $1 billion station projects in Los Angeles and San Diego and all over the state. So it is a large number, but there are opportunities.
That's right. And the time frame that you laid out for us, that would include coming to a determination by the end of the year as to which one of the 3 options that you laid out is the preferred option. Is that correct?
That's correct for the environmental document. So it'll environmentally clear one of those options. We could potentially build anything that is environmentally clear.
Perfect. I'm not going to belabor this. It is a lot of money. It is a generational public works project. It is perhaps one of the most important public works projects for the Coachella Valley in well over a generation, not only simply for the Coachella Valley, but for any one of the well over 10 million people who visit the Coachella Valley on an annual basis. And I have spent a lot of time in this valley, talked to a tremendous number of people who visit and love coming here. And in all of those years, I have yet to meet one individual who arrived in the Coachella by train. It is time for us to change that. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and appreciate the presentation, Sheldon. And thank you, Councilwoman Lisa Middleton, for your points. Very well taken. I just want to say thank you to all those folks here that have gotten this project this far. But I definitely want to say thank you to the late Greg Pettis, who obviously was in charge and was leading the charge, if you will, for many, 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 many years. And so, I just want to make sure we honor him and recognize that effort because he's still among us as we are working on this type of project, this effort. Now, this is also transformational, just like our Cal State University Palm Desert campus that one day we will have. And just like the arena that it seems to be coming along and moving forward, right? And so for all the reasons that Lisa Middleton brought up forward earlier, by all means, this is critical. And just one last point, appreciate that you will have materials, interpreters to translate into Spanish. I know that there's quite a bit of folk on the East End that go to the LA area, Orange County, and folks from over there that come this way by bus. And they have stops like in Coachella, for example, and Indio, and other areas as well. But I know that having that information in Spanish and getting their voices heard will be very, very helpful as well in moving this project along. So thank you. And I'll be leaving this meeting now because I have another one at 11. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Supervisor Hewitt.
Yeah, I'll echo some of the comments made by my colleagues here. And again, this helps really connect the county in so many ways. I mean, the eastern part of the county has had, Interstate 10 and a couple mountain roads to get over the back way or whatever. We're growing out in the Coachella Valley and in the pass especially so much, and we're seeing the impacts on the Interstate 10 in ways that you can't even, on a Sunday night, you can't even get home or whatever. But this is something that, like I say, will change everything. There are just so many positive things, from having easier access to, say, Palm Springs International Airport instead of going to Ontario and such. I mean, it gives us all kinds of choices and it gets us into the future. I think this one makes sense in every way. If we can get the railroads to buy in with us, that sounds like one of the biggest issues. But if it's $1 billion, it's one of the best $1 billion we can spend. So let's keep it moving. Gosh, my wife even likes this one. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Furman.
Well, I'm gonna just share this. I think the word of the day is gonna be concur, because I concur with a lot of the comments. I just want to add on a couple and show my appreciation for all the hard work and the great presentation. And here in Indio, we're gonna do what we can to get the word out to our constituents. And I could just make a suggestion. I could send you some photos of myself and Commissioner Reed at Coachella if you want to throw them on there. A little update, but just thank you for the hard work. And I think this project is really going to support our workforce as well, expanding out into the Inland Empire in Los Angeles for our folks out here in the Coachella Valley. And also as the city of Indio and Coachella really begin to reinvest in our downtown areas and see this growth this is going to be vital for us as well. So this environmental study being released is actually a perfect timing for us as well down here. And also, really investing in rail is going to be crucial. We're growing out in the Coachella Valley at a fast rate. And some of the traffic issues that we see in our Western County, if we don't really think how we're going to mitigate those issues here in the Valley, we might end up with those same issues. So this is crucial that we start investing in and changing our way of thought as it pertains to transportation. So just wanted to add those comments and just thank you for also adding that piece of bilingual into your presentation and the messaging getting out there, because 60% of our folks here in India are Hispanic, and about 30% of that is Spanish speaking. And so we appreciate that as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And Commissioner Pingree, now first, before you speak, I have to ask you, did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, you did.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank
you. Commissioner Pingree, this is his first meeting. He is representing Banning. Welcome. Thank you. And we'd love to hear your comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I may be speaking out of turn, but I do have, it's a great project. Looking forward to being able to connect the Coachella Valley with the Pass area. But I do have a couple of concerns, and they may have already been answered. One of the biggest concerns I have is with Cabazon. There's one exit in and one exit out into Cabazon, and I've seen where 2 trains have already blocked the entrance in, which have set fire trucks off from getting into the south side of Cabazon, south of the freeway, and was wondering, are they going to fix that to where they're with the Metrolink and the freight trains running all at the same time? Is there going to be a way for emergency vehicles and in case of emergency evacuation, the citizens can get out?
Really an important comment. And this is where we have the opportunity on the draft that will be released to make those comments, because that's really an important comment made. Okay.
Yeah, that is a great comment, and that is definitely something that we'll bring into the design effort going into the Tier 2 document. So raising it now, we'll address it going forward. And conceptually, the 3rd track would help to keep traffic flowing. So if there's a freight train, there would be opportunities to get around that on the railroad. But yeah, the street crossings will need to be addressed as we get closer in the project.
Great, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions on this? I just have a quick comment. Yay, a train. Then we'll next now. That was information only, so we don't need to vote. And we will go to commissioners and executive director reports. Are there any reports or comments? Okay, so now we have closed session. Legal counsel, can you direct us, please?
Yes, we do have a closed session for the regarding property matters that are listed on the agenda, and we'll now be adjourning into closed session.
I'll be moving everyone into a breakout room. I'll be staying behind for just a moment to make sure everyone moves over, and I'll be joining you shortly.
Thank you.
Marlon, you have to join, push the button to join if you want to go in, and Steve as well. Commissioners, there we go. I think Commissioner Benoit's on 2 phones because he was driving in. So let me know if he needs help. I'm going to go over.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah.